Good afternoon to everybody. Welcome at Berlin. It's great to see all of you here. Lars put it in a way, it's a kind of family meeting. The family of TA, the international family meets, and the family is enlarging. We are a big family now compared to the time, let me say, 10, 20 years ago, and it's great to have you here. My name is Armin Grunwald. I'm Director of the Institute for Technology Assessment and Systems Analysis at Karlsruhe, ITAS, and I'm also Director of the Office of Technology Assessment at the German Bundestag here in Berlin. And the reason why I'm speaking first is only that the ITAS Institute, together with our partners from the Czech Republic, is organizing this conference on behalf of the PACITA project. So everything what's not good, please tell me, tell my colleagues, we are responsible. We are in charge of that things function and work well. We will do our best. In cases of problems, do not hesitate to approach us. Berlin, it's not necessary to say anything about the city because you are all familiar with Berlin, with the history, in particular with the different stations of history during the 20th century. If you walk around here in the environment, you have a specific impression because we are here in the former eastern part of Berlin. You can still see relics of, let me say, socialist urban planning. You can see some ruins, but also see a lot of documents of the new Berlin, which emerges now about for 20 years. A very fast development over the last 10 to 20 years. A booming city, so to speak. Okay, perhaps one remark to this room here. It is not a former church, but it is still a church. It is simultaneously a church and a conference hall. And it was a church from the 19th century which was destroyed in the Second World War and rebuilt using modern forms of architecture. So this ambiente emerged, and I guess it's a really very good environment to have a lively conference. The plenary sessions will be here. The other sessions will be some minutes from here to that direction. There is a building with a lot of seminar rooms. Okay, and that should be enough for the first words, but now it's up to Lars Klüver to open the conference because it's a conference of the PACITA project and Lars is the coordinator. Lars, please.
Thanks, Armin, and hello, friends and friends-to-be. It's a family, as Armin said, and it's a family that is growing. It's a family that's growing in very many directions, conceptually, geographically, in our mindsets, and that's what the PACITA project has been about. I'm going to say a little about the PACITA project and also a little about what came out of it. The project will close in a little more than a month, which is very, very sad, but let's leave that until Friday afternoon when they close the conference. Right now, I think it's important that you know what it's been about, and it's about this. We have been working with documenting TA, training TA, we have had different kind of debates, and I'll talk about that. The first is documenting TA. What did we do there? We have been 15 partners. One had to leave, so we are 14 partners now. 7 of them are parliamentary TA units. 7 of them are in countries where there's a wish to develop TA, and we have worked together in all these different tasks that I will mention. And the first is about documenting TA, where what we did was we made a documentation of the existing technology assessment institutions, and we did that in fashions that is very much more interesting than what we usually have done. Usually we have always just said that the reason the institutions were made as they were because of politically cultural differences, and full stop. But that's not much of an explanation, and basically we have looked much more into it to when were they made, why, what, how were they made, what was the window of opportunity that made it happen that they came. So basically we looked into the story of establishing and running TA institutions. Then we've looked into, because technology is moving upwards to transnational level in very many ways, in its development and also in its regulation, and therefore it's important to look at the transnational level. So we looked into how can TA work together across Europe to make technology assessment together, still being nationally institutionalized. And we made a good report about that with a lot of visioning, a lot of ways ahead that we can go together. Then there's a book on TA, and that's being edited. The last work is being done on it, and you have such a little thing in your conference material, which is basically about that you can send an email to somewhere, and then we'll remember you when the book is finished, and we'll give you a warning so that you can buy it. Then we trained TA as well. We made 2 summer schools for users of TA. With that we mean policymakers, civil servants, and very interesting with those summer schools, they were heavily oversigned. There was such an interest to know about TA from the outside of TA, you could say. And I think that's a lesson we really have to take with us, that people are looking into this and really want to know what it is about and learn about it. We had 4 practitioner trainings. With practitioners here we mean people who in different roles are performing TA, and these trainings are now documented also on the net. You can go and see videos of them, so everybody can basically use them. And then we developed a TA portal, and we hope that is something that will really, really grow in the future and continue after Patricia. It's a great thing to have everything in one portal, have all our publications, all our projects in one portal, so that we can look at and use each other's work. Debating TA, we had a very huge piece of work that we did in the 7 countries who wanted to see if they could develop technology assessment institutions. So basically we paired a parliamentary TA unit with an institution from one of those countries, and we helped each other to explore in those countries what was the history of TA-like activities, where could there be a window of opportunity for establishing TA, and there's really been made some good work there, and in Wallonia I think we are very, very close to actually that Patricia pushed really a new institution to come, and also I think in the other countries it really, really moved the whole thinking and the whole idea of that they can have such a thing as TA, and there's a need for such a thing as TA. So it has really moved something, which is an important lesson from Patricia. We had 2 parliamentary debates, and I will come back to them because out of them came very important messages about TA in the future, but I will come back to that. And then we had the 2 European conferences, and you're at one of them now. The Volta magazine, if you haven't got it, then get it. We made 8 issues, and that's also one thing that we really hope we can continue afterwards. It's a matter of finances, to be honest. But basically it has been so good to have a magazine between us in TA that we can tell about our projects, tell about what's going on, and the lessons we're learning. So an internal and external magazine that has been very important, I think. Then we made 3 cross-European example projects. We wanted to show to ourselves and to everybody else how we can make TA across Europe. And we tried it in 3 different forms that most of you know, that we often split between expert, stakeholder, and citizen-based TA. And we made 1 project in each group. I think that very important learning that we made there was that it actually worked best when we worked in our countries and then synthesized across Europe, which was very interesting. And all this was done in order to learn and to mobilize. TA, it was made with a vision of having TA all over Europe. And then I come to the next thing, which is basically the thing I told you about, the two parliamentarian conferences that we had. We have developed a manifesto, and it should have been in your conference material, but it's in a truck somewhere between Barcelona and Berlin. So we hope that you can pick it up tomorrow morning at the check-in desks. It looks like this. Actually, this is a print, but it's much nicer. But it looks like this. But what it looks like is not as important as what's in it with regard to content. With regard to content. Basically what we did was we took out some lessons of PACITA and said where could and where should TA go in the future. And one thing that is obvious from the PACITA project that there's a hunger for more training, capacity building, to learning how you do TA, what you can get from TA. We know that from the training, we know that from the parliamentary meetings, from the conferences, from the from the schools, summer schools we made with users. So there's really a need for continuing the TA capacity building in Europe. Another one is that there's a hunger also for making some form of institutionalization of TA all over Europe. That was a clear message from the parliamentary debates we had, that all European countries ought to have a TA institution in their own country. And how do we get that? Well, basically the European Commission must play some kind of role, because that's not something that comes from itself. We have to have things like this going on in the future. But it's really something that was pushed a lot by the politicians that we invited. And also a message from the parliamentarians that was very, very clear was that TA should have a role of connecting parliamentarians across Europe so that they can have debates among them. And I think that's also an important thing to try to see if we can do in the future, because there was a very, very strong call for it. And interesting enough, the call was strongest from those countries who do not have TA. They really kind of envied that parliamentarians have TA and have debates about technology. Also, and that was also mentioned by the parliamentarians, there's a clear role for connecting citizens and policymaking for TA. Technology has a huge impact on people's life, and therefore we need to have their input about how they want to live that life with technology, and TA should play a role in doing that. And then the final thing, no, it's not the final, it's the second final. We need to do more together. We simply need to build up some form of collaboration mode so that we can make projects together based on our national efforts, but projects together with a European mission. Because there's a need for TA on a European level as well, not only in the countries where we are institutionalized. Very important message, I think. And the last one is the responsible research and innovation concept is coming up. TA has a very important role to play there. And that should be seen, and we should do something to be mingled with the RRI development, and we should do there to be obviously seen in it. Those were the points that I would make from the manifesto. We have done it like that. We end the manifesto by saying that this manifesto was presented at the final European Conference of PACITA in Berlin, February 25th to 27th of 2015. It was supported by the participants of the conference, to be seen at our website, pacitaproject.eu. So we're not capturing you in this. What we do is we basically say that the participants of this conference support that manifesto unless you opt out. And because opting in is a little difficult with so many people, so it's much more easier for those who don't support it to go out at the check-in desk and write your name, and then you'll be opted out. You will not be on the list. That's the way we'll do it. So please do that. Else we will take you hostage. Basically, that was what I would say. I just want to say a warm welcome. Look at this program. Friday afternoon, we will be happy but exhausted. I hope you'll have a very good conference, and I say that on behalf of all the partners in PACITA. Welcome.
Thank you, Lars. Pasita is great anyway. And if it would not exist, we would have to invent it. So it's wonderful to have this project and to have had. So it will be finished soon, as Lars said, but there will be a lot of outcomes, impacts, and consequences. I guess the Pasita project will be regarded as a major step forward in the development of the TA community, not only in Europe. It is a Europe-funded project, but from the very beginning, we developed the Pasita project also in discussion and cooperation with partners from abroad, and I'm very happy that today here there are participants also from, let me say, Russia, the United States, of course, Australia, so from all over the world. And that is perhaps one of the next horizons, or a topic of the conference, to expand and to build, to form an international TA community. Okay, Lars stole my point. I wanted to make the following point. In TA, we have to deal with prospective knowledge, with prospective assessments, and so on. And we all know that prospective knowledge is very precarious, because the future is uncertain and open, and so on and so on. And we learned in the history of TA not to make predictions. But I would like to dare one prediction, namely exactly what Lars said, that I expect that we will be very tired on Friday afternoon. We have about 50 sessions, more than 200 presentations. It will be a serious challenge to listen to all the presentations. I don't know how to do this. So we have to make choices, and we will miss a lot of interesting debates which will be going on here. That's business. We have to deal with this. A great program, TA in theory and practice, so to speak, in many different application areas, in terms of methodology, in terms of practical experience, in terms of policy advice, in terms of the interface between science and policy and the public, and so on and so on. A lot of interesting stuff, and still I do not know to which sessions I will go, because all of them are so interesting, except the case I have to go to those sessions where I have a role. So, okay, that's a bit, makes the decision sometimes easier. Okay, so let's come back to Pasita, a milestone in the development of TA, and I hope that everybody of you knows what the P in Pasita stands for. It stands for parliamentary. And thus I'm really happy now to announce that the chair of the Bundestag's Committee on Education, Research, and, please listen, Technology Assessment is with us, Frau Patricia Lips. She will give a welcome address. She is member of the Bundestag, she is chairwoman, and she is member of the Christian Democratic Party. So we are honored that you are here. Today in the morning you had to chair the committee's meeting. Now you are here, and I ask you to give your welcome address. Please, take the floor.
I am honored. Mr. Klüver, Mr. Grunwald, colleagues from European national parliaments, scientists and researchers, ladies and gentlemen. In my capacity as chairwoman of the German Bundestag Committee, Education, Research and Technology Assessment, we connected it to this committee, it's a great honor and pleasure for me to be able to welcome you to Berlin as guests and organizers to the second major TA conference in the Pasita framework. I'd also like to take this opportunity to convey the best wishes of my colleagues in my committee. This major three-day conference marks the conclusion of Pasita project, for which the European Union has sought to strengthen technology assessment as a source of scientific policy advice. In 1990, 25 years ago, anniversary, the German Bundestag introduced parliamentary technology assessment as a permanent mechanism for the provision of scientific policy advice. The first discussions on this subject took place much earlier, back in 1973. But then the matter had to be considered by 2 parliamentary study commissions in 8 years, which were then followed by a pilot project. Only then were all questions resolved regarding to the competences, organization and funding of parliamentary TA, and a research institute was selected to run the Office of Technology Assessment at the Bundestag. And that was not the end of the story. Our contracts with the Office of Technology Assessment are always for a 5-year period, which offers us regular opportunities to review TA and our work with a contractor. As you can see, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes a great deal of perseverance is needed. Today, we do have experiences we can share to make processes for you faster, easier. But what is also needed in particular are people from across the party spectrum in the parliaments who are convinced, in view of the global challenges facing us, that independent scientific advice can result in more responsible and sustainable policy making than can be achieved without it. And indeed, a great many national parliaments in Europe had the wisdom and foresight to establish advisory structures back when the rapid development of these global challenges was less evident than it is today. But how can countries whose parliaments do not yet use TA draw on the experience and knowledge of those who have been practicing it for many years? The European Union's decision to make around 5 million euros available for PACITA over four years and under the 7th framework program for research was a great achievement. But once again, there was a long road to travel to reach that point, and it required the dedication of many TA institutions and individuals who have come together to form the European Parliamentary Technology Assessment Network, EPTA. On the parliamentary side, I'd like to make special mention of Philippe Busquin, the then chair of what we call DOA, the European Parliament's TA institution, and my predecessor, where is she? There she is. As committee chairwoman, Ulla Burchardt, both whom have over many years made an outstanding contribution to promoting PTA on the international stage. My committee colleagues are responsible for TA across party lines, and I expressly welcome and support the PACITA mission. We place great value on cooperation with representatives of the scientific community and civil society in view of the constantly growing technological, economic, ecological and social challenges of the 21st century. And increasingly, this cooperation will need it to take place at international level. This was brought home to the committee again recently in our consideration of the final reports on TA projects we had. Allow me to offer just 2 examples. As climate engineering, the aim of this project was to explore the risks and opportunities of climate engineering with future international climate protection efforts in mind. Or another example, hazards and vulnerability in modern societies, using the example of a large-scale outage in the electricity supply. The central question in this case was what effects a long-lasting and widespread electricity outage could have on particularly critical infrastructure such as drinking water, sewage, information, communication systems, and financial and health services. And in the event of a cascading effect, how these impacts might cross state and national boundaries. Ladies and gentlemen, between now and Friday, you will be considering and discussing a kaleidoscope of important and highly topical scientific and technological issues. Your focus in this context will be on policy-oriented TA. I would like to thank everyone who has participated in the PACITA project over the past few years, all those involved in planning and preparing for this very large and ambitious conference, and everyone who is contributing to this event in organizational and substantive terms. It's impossible to mention you all by name, unfortunately, but I do wish to mention in particular Lars Klüver of the Danish Board of Technology Foundation and coordinator of PACITA, Professor Armin Grunwald of the Institute for Technology Assessment and Systems Analysis at KIT, we call it KIT, the scientific committees of PACITA, the organization committee for the second European TA conference, and the keynote speakers and all the session chairs. I hope that all conference participants will gain some new knowledge and insights between now and Friday. I wish you good discussions and contacts. And finally, may I express my hope that this conference will indeed bring us closer to the next horizon of technology assessment. Thank you.